Greetings and welcome to another American edition of Can You Roll a Crit, where today I'm talking briefly about the streamed game for Kill Team, as well as my belief that elites are likely to be very good going into the new edition. But before we go into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Do you agree? Disagree? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support too. Yeah, I'm missing the green screen because I'm still in America, right? So working with what I have, I don't even have a shaver. It's really frustrating. But yeah, so I was at Nova, obviously, for the weekend, and I watched a stream game live. I've seen like the Reddit posts and online stuff that's gone through it, so they've definitely missed stuff. But I will basically talk about what I saw, because like Mike Brandt was there, like lots of people were there, like Layla was there helping like manage the game. She's like one of the new rules designers for Kill Team. She does an amazing job. And like also Adrian and Alexa were there, like during the intermissions, being able to tell us stuff. And basically on that feedback, I'll go over what I think, as well as why I think Elites are in such a good place. So first up with approved ops, we kind of knew this. I hoped I was wrong, but there's only 3 objectives. So 3 objectives, no matter what kill zone you're playing on, there's only 3. So on the token sheet, there were 6 objectives because you get it double-sided, but effectively, I believe it's for 2 players. So there's only 3 objectives. Now, they wouldn't tell us what missions there were. We only knew they were playing secure, so we don't know how many missions there are. We don't know what kind of missions there are as well. But they did confirm to us that all missions are 3 objectives each. So no matter what board you're playing on, there's only 3 objectives, which makes it very interesting. I was personally hoping for 5, because at the moment we have 6 objectives, and 6 objectives is kind of, in general, a little bit difficult to play over. Even if you're a 10 operative team, it's better if you're like 11 or more, and 6 operative teams struggle quite a bit, because especially on missions like loot, where you have to send someone back or stay in an objective, you potentially have half your team holding your backfield. And with only 3 objectives, I assume most of the like second objectives will be on the midline, which means you may only have 1 objective you need to defend, like that is in your territory, with 1 on the midline and then 1 more to take, which means now you can probably leave just 1 Marine on the backfield and then the rest either going towards the middle objective and storming your opponent's objective. So from that alone, we're going to find it much easier to play. Now, on the flip side, that also makes it easier for Horde teams. It means they can now pick which objective to flood. So it's not all what it seems for elite players, but it definitely seems a lot better. Because the main thing with 7-wound teams, they're good at stealing individual points, because 2 APL2 operatives will steal a point from a single Space Marine because they're APL free. But when you only have like half the number of objectives, it makes it harder to storm that, because basically the Space Marine player now knows which objective you're going to try and take, and if they put a second Space Marine on their home objective, you now need 4 operatives to steal that point, which is not really doable in a single activation. Now, you can just keep throwing operatives on the middle objective, but then that just works out for the elite player, because if you played the game, elites are very good at killing 7-wound operatives up close, especially when most of them can double fight. Now, the other thing that was touched upon is Counteract. So I think it was shown once in the game, and they briefly mentioned to us at the stream game at Nova that Counteract now lets you do a single action ability instead of overwatching. Like, overwatching is gone, and they've gone with Counteract. So it kind of works like how I suggested React, which is not a playtester. But that opens up a lot of interesting abilities, because now what elite players can do, last activation, they could charge 3 operatives, like let's say with an Assault Intercessor, fight 2, leave the one that's not activated in combat, wait until it's like your last, just before your last operative activates, then fight and kill them. So immediately they're already getting 3 fight actions. I assume that allows them to like reposition, because reposition is the new move. So maybe they can also reposition, because that's a single AP action, or dash. I'm not sure the restrictions on that. But you could also shoot again. And I believe now when you counteract, you're shooting at full ballistic skill. They wouldn't go fully into the details from that, but that also means you could go shoot, kill 2 different operatives, your opponent activates, and then if you don't die, I mean, you could always have no injury up if that still stays, like if you're an intercessor, and then shoot again. So immediately you're getting 3 shots just out of living. So it looks like if you're being out activated now, it's not a huge issue. I mean, it's still an issue, but coupled with the reduced number of objectives, that allows more counterplay. And I'm assuming, like, especially if you can do any mission action, or like, for example, you could charge, once again, you could shoot someone on the point, charge, kill someone, end up in like control range with someone else. Then when your opponent's on the other side of the board, you then activate and like steal that point if it's secure, because that's still a 1 AP action. Although I don't know if you can do mission actions in control range. They weren't really clear about how that works with secure, because they did mention control range actions don't work the same, but I think it should be fine for like mission actions. But there's just a lot of flexibility with that, and even getting like an extra movement. So even if you are activated, you're still moving up the board. Obviously you can still do it on engage, so you have to, there is some risk behind it, but once again, when elites are naturally more tanky, more durable, that's really a benefit for them. And I know a lot of players who like playing majority engage or mostly all engage for their elites, and that just seems to work a lot as well. The other thing is we also have a reduced number of command points. So it's basically like the first season of Kill Team for Kill Team 2.0. So when you start the game, you start with 2 command points going to 3, and obviously with one of the new scouting options, you can choose to have one of your strategic ploys during the first turning point for 3 as well. Now, I'm assuming this stays the same, but elite kill teams generally have ways to get either free ploys or extra command points. So I expect elite points to also have the advantage, if that remains the same, to have the advantage in the command point game. Because look at Vobos, for example. They will start with 3 command points, then immediately go to 4 during the turning point, and then once again go into turning point 2 with either 5 or even 7 command points, because they did show that if you go second during a turning point, you also get +2 command points. So if you wanted to really stockpile those command points, you could go second, and potentially if you're playing like Phobos or Nemesis Claw, go up to 3 command points during the turning point, and suddenly just go like, okay, I've gone second in turning point 2, now I can just keep pushing for first in 3 and 4 because I've already stockpiled on my command points, because a lot of opponents are actually going to be running quite low, and I think that's just going to be really beneficial to elite teams. Obviously, do you want to risk stockpiling those command points in terms of losing a Marine? Not all the time, but let's say you've played very safe turning point 1, then you win initiative, and then you go, I'll let my opponent go first. Then you can start pushing during turning point 2, so in 3 and 4, when you're more likely to break ties, you don't care about going first and giving your opponent more command points, because they're only going to be on like 4 or like they will very unlikely be 5 command points going in to turning point 3, which is very good for elites once again. Now, one other good and bad thing about elites is the kill op. So originally people were thinking like the kill op is really good for elites, because, you know, the more they kill, elites are naturally a very killy kill team, they're going to score more on the kill ops, and I think they're going to be very good at kill ops because Marines in general, elite kill teams in general, are very good at killing. The flip side, I actually think the kill op is more to counteract elite teams personally, because if you look at the kill op, it's actually very easy compared to a 14 wound team to max the kill op compared to horde teams, because killing those 14 operatives, it's actually going to be very difficult. So it's going to be an interesting balance. Now, I do think the Marines are going to be very good at just like scoring the kill op, in terms of like probably getting 4 points, maybe even 5 against most teams. Like against the 10 operative team, I think elites will probably max the kill op most of the time or get 5 points. But against hordes, I actually don't think they will max it. So it's a weird dichotomy where hordes still might have advantage in the kill op. But even if they don't wipe out hordes, I still think they'd be ahead of hordes on the kill op, because if you look at it, it's going to be all about fighting over the kill op. And even if you don't max points, you're likely to get 4 or 5, which is enough to just like tie your opponent, because they're going to also struggle killing you, which goes on to my next point of what makes Elite good. They were able to tell us at the preview that plasma is not as strong as it was before. Like they did tell us that the plasma gunner for the Scions is only capped to piercing 1. So if plasma has actually been reduced across the board, then obviously elite teams get more viable, because Melter is still as deadly as it is. Like they said, the Melter gunner was still piercing 2 with the same profile. The only reason it didn't kill the one of the Vespids is because they ignore piercing, because they're like the stealth one. So that's why it didn't immediately kill that Vespid. But with Melter still being as deadly as normal, with plasma just losing that pip of AP, I'm not sure about the damage profiles, but apparently being capped generally at piercing 1 means it's more likely for Marines to live, because if, you know, they block 2 hits currently and like a plasma shoots at them, they would be taking 10 damage, but they'd still be alive, compared to now in the current Kill Team 2.0 where they would take like 15 damage and only block 1 hit on an overcharge and die minimum. That would just kill everyone. And you know, it's still, as I said, only leaving them on like potentially like 2 wounds, but that's enough to keep going, because most elites, assuming that stays, have a way to fight past being injured, and most teams actually lack AP2. I think the only teams that have lots of AP2 are, well, the Scions, Kazakin, and the Eldari teams, namely the Voidsguard Corsairs and Hand of the Archon, who both have access to 2 AP2 weapons. So it'll be quite interesting, because it reduces the lethality for elites, which just makes them easier to play the game. And I know some people may love or hate that, but it does make it easier, considering Horde teams currently just look and like can just delete a Space Marine. I don't know what's happening to plasma pistols as well, but they did generally say plasma weapons should only be like piercing 1. So with the reduction of piercing 2 weapons from the game sans Melters, like Melters are going to be really good, so I still think Scions probably have the elite number from what we see, because they have a Melter Bomb and a Melter Gun. So, you know, they're very likely to just like delete Marines. But with that reduced lethality across the board, it should help elites play. So overall, from what we saw, the game has now shifted to 3 objectives, meaning across the missions that you'll play for Kill Team 3.0, you've only got 3 missions, 3 objectives a piece. We only did see Secure, but there will be more missions that we'll find out at a later date, which makes it easier for Marines to play board control, to defend their objectives, as well as to go out and steal. Because once again, if you have 2 Marines holding your own point, they now need 4 operatives to steal that point, which is very hard to do. But now you can easily pressure 2 Marines. Like you could have 2 Marines go for the middle, and then 2 Marines go for your opponent's objective, and just spread them out there. With the reduced number of command points, assuming Space Marines still retain the ability to generate more command points, they're going to have the lead on the command points, especially if you play more defensively with them, going second turning point 2, because it means you could go into turning point 2 with like 5 or 6 command points as it stands now, making elite teams better at playing defensively cagily, and just then punishing the opponents for later turning points. They also play the kill op better in terms of they're more likely to kill on it and score higher than the opponent, while also not conceding too much. Although personally I think it'll be more of a balancing factor for elites, because you only really need to kill like 4 elites to get 5 points, I think, whereas elites like the Hordes, you need to kill a lot more. Like I think you need to kill 10 to get 5 points if they're a 14 operative team. So it's not super easy, but they'll still more likely score a lot and concede not as much as you'd think. And then also with the reduced lethality in the game from plasmas, hopefully, like they did say, like the Scion plasma was piercing 1, and it should reflect across the game, but we haven't seen the other plasmas yet. It does mean a lot of teams don't have much access to AP2, So it means just Marines are going to be more survivable into hordes, which are their main issues at the moment. And then also with Counteract. So Counteract is the new version of Overwatch, allowing you to do a 1 AP action while on engage. It allows Marines just to do more points, like more things. I don't know the full restrictions on it, but being able to do any 1 AP action when you can Overwatch, effectively. And even when you shoot on Overwatch, well, when you shoot on Counteract, it's not a -1 ballistic skill. So it's really, really cool that I think elites have really a lot of play into new edition. Now we need to see how they're going to play, obviously, but these are just my early thoughts from what we saw at the stream game. I'd also like to thank once again Games Workshop for running that stream game at Nova. Adrian and Alexa were great players. They were really good at explaining stuff to us, as well as like Mike Brandt and Layla. They were all super helpful and super fun to chat to, and they made the game really fun and engaging to watch, as well as just watching like Alexa and Adrian play. They were super funny and fun to watch. And it's a shame you couldn't see them properly in person from the Twitch stream, but it was really fun. They were great, as well as all the GW streaming crew. You couldn't see them behind the scenes, but they were doing a really hard job as well, and we're doing their best. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me today. Please remember to like and subscribe, as well as comment. Remember, I've got a Discord you can check out from the episode description below, and a affiliate link at Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. Just want to thank all my patrons, because you are all the best, and keep me doing what I'm doing with that, and I couldn't do without all your support. But yeah, this should maybe be my last video in America. I'm coming back this weekend, so I've got a lot of stuff to catch up on. But I just thought I'd do this video now as a nice way to catch up. And remember, no matter what happens in the new edition of Kill Team, you always have a chance to win, as long as you can roll a crit.